Good afternoon, geeks. It has been a long time. We had a move, and I had military schools I had to go to. It's been months since we've had an opportunity to sit down. Truth is, I haven't had a day off. I've had one day off in the last month and a half. And I'm getting close to another day off, and I chose to do this for some strange reason instead of relaxing. This is our rapid review of Old Guard, a Netflix original movie based on a graphic novel. This stars Charlize Theron, who I'm not a huge fan of, but I'm going to try to not hold that against the movie or the series. I actually thought she was pretty good in this, in that the character fit her, I believe. But we'll get to acting later, because we're going to start with, and we're going to make these rapid. We're really trying to make these rapid instead of 10 or 15 minutes long.
Get him to stop talking so much.
Almost impossible to do.
It is. Starting with story and writing, what do you think about it?
It's an introductory story. It's introducing a world and characters, and it suffers from all of the usual problems that you would have with something like that. It suffers with pacing. You've got all this exposition you have to get out there. It's very difficult to do. The plot was predictable. So overall, I gave it a 5.5. I mean, it was decently done, but it was very predictable. It gets a bonus. It gets into the 5s and higher because the premise is interesting. Not necessarily unique, but interesting. And they piled onto the premise with a bunch of other factors that made it more interesting than it would have been. The lack of what these characters actually know is going on. That mystery, I think that helped a lot. I like mystery. And I think that's going to play out as things progress. If they're making more, allegedly they are.
I gave it a 6. I thought it was interesting. The storyline, it kind of reminded me of what you see along the lines with the vampire stuff, because they're immortal and supernatural kind of thing. But I feel like, yes, it's an introduction movie to what's to come. So I'm really excited to see where this is going to go.
Yeah, for once, I think that a sequel's actually, and I was saving this for the end, but I think that a sequel to this might actually be better than the original introduction, because it's not going to have its hands tied by trying to push all this information out to the audience while it's trying to tell a story at the same time. Now, you can do that. That can be done, and it can be done well, and it wasn't done all that well here. But I do recognize the difficulty in doing that. It's rarely done very well.
Well, and I felt like they had a lot to cover and do, and so I feel like it's an introduction movie. That's what I think of it as.
Moving on so we can be rapid.
Acting.
So acting, I gave it a 6. Like I said, I'm not a Charlize Theron fan. Not usually. There's some people you enjoy watching and it doesn't matter what they do. And there's some people that you just don't enjoy watching, and I just usually don't enjoy watching her. In this, however, her hard-bitten ancient character is kind of fits her. I think it fits what she normally brings to the table. I'll leave it at that. But as far as the other acting, most of it was so-so from really good actors. Some of it was above par. The characters, and I had to write them down because they don't say their names a lot. Booker, Nikki, and Joe, the 3 guys, the 2 that are a couple, and the one that is morally ambiguous in the story. I'm not going to give too much away as far as spoilers. I found their performances to be better than most of the rest of the people in this movie. They're the reason why it got a 6 and not maybe a 4 or 5.
I gave it a 6. Yes, they're the main characters, so I believe that, they should be the better actors of the movie. So, a lot of the side characters, a lot of things weren't as great or up to par, but
Actually, it was the opposite for me. It was the main characters, Charlize and the new girl, I can't remember, and what was he, CIA, whatever, the government agent, those people
He
seem
was
to be
really
everything
good.
centered around them, except for the morally ambiguous guy. I found all the side characters to be far more interesting. The mysterious, not to give too much away, the mysterious girl in the box, the morally ambiguous guy, the enemies turned lovers. I found them to be far more interesting characters and better played. Sorry, I interrupted.
Yeah. You do that a lot. Directing and editing. What did you think?
So maybe it's the writing, really. You've got the script. That's what you've got to work with. But the pacing was kind of fast, slow, fast, slow, fast, slow. Instead of, I really saw this movie as a 3-act movie. It could have been a 3-act movie where the pacing is structured around that, to where the first part of the movie is introduction to everybody and their problems, and the middle is new person gets involved, right? And you can have an arc there, and the pacing can follow that. Build, 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 fast, 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 stops, resets, build, 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 but with an overall arcing, speed. So like the first arc can be kind of slow, middle arc's kind of medium, last arc moves pretty fast. So you've got the overall arc, and then these 3 acts acting within it, kind of building the pacing too. I saw it more like that. I saw that could have been that's what it could have been. That's not what it was necessarily.
But would you say that's the story and the writing?
I think you could overcome it.
Oh yeah.
I think with the right. Yeah, I think with the right editing, likely you could have overcome that if you had enough in the can to really do that. I think the score and the editing and all that could have taken what was there and created those triple arcs and that overarching arc. And I think it would have built and probably pulled you in more, and would have served the story better too. I think
that was a little bit of the story where you're getting the pacing was a little bit like, I think it was the story.
Info dumps are hard.
But yeah. I mean, yes, I think, a good director can take a crappy script and turn it into...
No, I'm not saying it was a crappy script. I mean, it had issues.
But I'm just saying, it could have been directed maybe a little bit better, but I don't think it was mostly that.
See, when I think directing, I think what's the substance of the scene. When I think editing, then I'm looking at overall pacing and scoring and all of that.
Yeah.
But I gave it a 5.5 on that one. I'm not sure if I had given my score yet.
I would give it a 5. Maybe it's part of the editing that I was like, could have been a little bit smoother, but it wasn't so defined that I was like, whoa, I could really tell that the pacing was off. It was just a little bit here and there.
There's a lot of okay in this movie with some standout things, I think. There's a lot of okay. Yeah. We'll get to that.
Visual arts, what did you think?
I gave it a 6.0. Visual arts are like special effects and cinematography. The special effects seem pretty good. The cinematography, it was good for the fight scenes, right? It was tight, but I think it could have been shot a lot better on all of the slower stuff. I think I'm by no means an expert, but it seemed like somebody who was really good at filming fight scenes and very tight shots did the whole film, as opposed to, mixing it up. And cinematography can do a lot in making a small story seem epic, and this seems like it should be epic, but it felt like a very small story just based on how many close-ups there were, how narrow the camera angles were, how little panning there was, how it jumped around. Now that's also in editing, how it jumped around from location to location.
I gave it a 6. I really liked how they did the closing up the wounds and things like that. It looked really nice.
Yeah, that was done well.
Yeah. I don't know.
There wasn't a lot of blood, but was that for a rating? Was probably not because it's Netflix. Or was that for the the fact that they're immortals and healing really fast. It didn't matter. I mean, it was done really well otherwise.
Yeah. Technical arts. I gave it a 5. I didn't feel like I didn't feel like it stuck out real well on certain things that, like the sound design and things like that. I thought it was just okay.
Yeah, I think we had interesting sets. Perhaps the cinematography could have done more with that. There was an issue with magic travel. All of a sudden you're here, all of a sudden you're there. And I know they had scenes on planes and they had scenes on trains, but it was kind of jarring how quickly they moved around the world. I wrote magic feet, but magic travel feel is what I meant. It's a little jarring.
Overall, I give this movie a 6. I did think it was a little forgettable, but when I rewatched it, I really enjoyed it, and I watched the whole movie. It kept me engaged, and I really liked it. I like the storyline. It's something a little different, and I do think of it as an introduction movie into hopefully more movies to come.
Isn't everything forgettable for you? I gave it a 5.9. That's just sort of averaging what I had given it so far. I maybe I should have given it a 5.75 if I was trying to be mathematically correct. I'm not really sure there. I just gave it a 5.9, a little bit of a boost, I think, to what I rated it overall. I think because I'm cutting it some slack for the fact that it is an introduction, and there is allegedly number 2 is being filmed, or should be being filmed soon. I hold out hope for that, and I will watch number 2. I will definitely watch it. It's not a must watch, and it's not a don't watch. This falls within the watch category. One side note, because I've seen a lot of comments about this, 2 of the main characters are a gay couple who I found actually to be very, very interesting, and I found them to play their parts very well. A lot of the comments that I'm seeing complain about how they portrayed their relationship, the fact that Netflix put this relationship in there, and I understand Netflix has sort of a reputation for throwing in all kinds of diversity where it doesn't really help the story. This is not one of those situations. This did not harm the story at all. If anything, it helped the story. And I think coming from a military perspective, being around a bunch of people who fight wars for a living, gave me a little bit different insight into how their relationship is portrayed on the screen, because they are very much, I guess it's like a bromance taken to the next level, because they've got all those elements of 2 warriors, 2 very, very masculine men, being very close, and then they're also happen to be lovers. And the story about how they met is fantastic. I found it hilarious, and I just kind of want to watch a movie about how they met, because it's a great story. So if you're the kind of person who can't stand seeing 2 men kiss on camera, well, then it's not going to be for you. But if you have no problem with that, I think this relationship and this portrayal in particular, I think it serves the story. I think it helps, actually. It was well done.